Greetings, everyone. This is Richard Krivo with our chart reading session for the 4th of June. And as I've mentioned in previous YouTubes, I plan on doing a chart drill down for you like this once a week. So those of you who are interested can get a feel for how I like to analyze the charts each day to look for trading setups. And I just want to let you know at the present time, currency pairs that this daily drill down has called to my attention are up roughly 1,400 pips over the last week or so. Now, if you have questions about how and why my charts are set up the way they are, please reference the video entitled Chart Tutorial, which was posted on May the 11th. And also feel free to email me at rkrivofx at gmail.com. Okay, let's get a couple of risk disclaimers out of the way here. Trading foreign exchange involves significant levels of risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Traders should only invest with risk capital, money that if you lose it, you're not going to miss it in the least. I in no way guarantee or imply that any setup you see in this video will result in a winning trade. The content that I provide here is simply provided for informational and education purposes only and is not intended as a specific trading recommendation. My goal here is to teach you how to trade so that you don't have to rely on anyone else as you continue in your trading journey. Now, I use this daily drill down to identify pairs whose price action is moving in such a way as to identify them as higher probability trades. They're not guaranteed trades. There is no such thing as a guaranteed trade, by the way. These are just trades with a greater likelihood of success. And these setups that I'm looking for put the probabilities of having a winning trade more in our favor. The setup and its execution by no means assures any type of winning trade. Okay, let's take a look at a couple of the charts here. For no particular reason, I'm just going to be looking at, let's look at the Aussie USD currency pair. And I have here a weekly, a daily, a 4-hour, and a 1-hour chart. And you can see here that on the weekly chart, price action has been making lower highs, lower lows. We started moving up here, but now coming back down, never touched that upper Donchian channel. So in this situation, I am looking for selling opportunities. Same way here on the daily chart. We have a situation where price has been moving down since roughly May the 14th. We had a nice little pullback here, and if price action takes out on the daily chart that lower channel again, that will reaffirm this bearish posture on this particular pair. Now, what I'm looking at here is I see price action on the 1-hour chart here touch the upper Donchian channel and then has taken out the lower Donchian channel right at that point. Let me enlarge that chart for you a little bit. So what I'd be looking at here is right below this wick right here, which is in line over here with the current lower Donchian channel at about 76.64. If price action comes down and takes out that level again, that could present an interesting bearish scenario. So what I would do is, for me, I would be setting a price alarm at that level so I know to come to the computer when price action hits that level and then see what the charts are showing me at that time that might indicate and make up my mind for me whether or not this is a trade that I would consider getting into at that point. And price action on the lower chart, or excuse me, on the 1-hour chart, till price moves down to the lower Donchian channel, it's about 65 pips, roughly. Now, what I like to do also is go back to the weekly chart to see how much room a pair might have to run below that level. And on this Aussie USD weekly chart, I can see that if I follow that line across, that line from about 75.36 right around in there, there's modest support right in there, right at that level. You see where those the red and the green candlestick are right there where my cursor is. And then below that, price has more room to run again. As I look at slow stochastics on the weekly chart, I see where price, the indicator, the oscillator here in this case, is potentially set up to roll over to the downside. Nothing happens until it happens. The rollover hasn't necessarily taken place, but that would be another way to confirm the situation that price may continue to go to the downside. So on this Aussie USD pair, I'd be looking at only opportunities to sell the pair. And I do each day, twice a day actually, and I just did one before the session, a strong week analysis. And the Aussie right now is one of the weaker currencies that's out there based on the settings that I use to do my strong week analysis. If you want to learn more about that, the strong week analysis, email me at rcrivofx@gmail.com. So the Aussie's weak and the dollar is strong, which explains why this pair has been moving down. And again, some further corroboration on the idea that we want to potentially short that pair if and when a setup occurs. Let's take a look at the dollar yen. And the dollar right now in that strong week analysis, as I said, the dollar is strong at roughly about a, let's say, a +3 on the way I go about evaluating. And the yen is at a -5. So with the dollar strong and the yen weak, obviously we would expect that because we see this pair has been moving up. It's been making higher highs, higher lows. We've got price action taking out the upper Donchian channel on the weekly chart. We've got price taking out the upper Donchian channel on the daily chart. So we're looking for buying opportunities. And what I'm seeing here is kind of a range that has set itself up. Let me bring this chart up for you, make it a little bit larger. Let's put a couple of quick lines on it. And so we can identify that range. Let me make those lines thicker. Hang on one second here. Sorry about that. Well, okay, so it took me a minute, but the line started cooperating here. And what I was noticing on this 1 hour chart of the dollar-yen pair is this range that has kind of been setting itself up here where somewhat of a loosely configured range, but price action has been oscillating between these two levels. And one of the things we know about a range for sure is they don't last forever. Nothing does. So there is going to be a breakout at some point. My preference would be to look for a breakout to the upside because, again, I'm a longer-term trader. I'm looking at longer-term trends, and we have a longer-term trend on the weekly, longer-term bullish uptrend again on the daily. So in those scenarios, we go down to the lower time frames to look for a setup that might offer us an opportunity for a higher probability trade. In this scenario, what I would be looking at is on the 4 hour chart, if price approaches that 125.05 level, I'd set a price alarm there and then come back, revisit the charts when that price alarm goes off, if the price alarm goes off, and then we can take a peek and see if it's a trade that we want to get into. As far as pip potential goes, let's look at the weekly chart. I always like to take a look and see how much room a pair might have to run. And price action is made a high roughly at about 124.94, right around in there. Go across to the left, and we can see price can go from 124.94 roughly up to about 125.85. So approximately 100 pips of room to run before it runs into some resistance. And this resistance dates back a while. It dates back to December of 2002. But that's the way I try to identify and do identify how much room to run a currency pair has. Let's take a look at the dollar Canadian currency pair. And again here we have on the weekly chart, price moved up, kept taking out the upper Donchian channel, retraced, never touched the lower Donchian channel. So we are still in an open buy scenario on this weekly chart for the dollar Canadian. We can also see slow stochastics down here. There's a crossover, but it's very neutral. We just kind of get a non-committal crossover here. We've got the K line crossing over the D line, but one is pointing down, one is pointing up. What we need is for both of these lines to be pointing in an upward trajectory to indicate that there is more potential than not for this pair to continue its move to the upside. That all being said, on the 1 hour chart here, since we're only looking for buying opportunities based on what I'm seeing, excuse me, on the daily and the weekly chart, I would go up to the 1 hour chart, and if I would set a price alarm here, we've still got a lot of this over here, which is just, kind of, market noise, a resistance zone. So I'd like to see price break through that level. So I might set my price alarm at roughly 125.36 just to check the scenario out there. And on the 1 hour chart, we see slow stochastics is got good angle and separation to the upside here, indicating that there may be some upside follow through on that particular pair. Let's take a look at the pound Aussie. And we've got a situation here where, again, uptrend on the longer term charts. Those are the two charts, the weekly and the daily, that I look at to make my determination about which direction I personally want to trade the pair. And I see here that we've got angle and separation to the upside. We also have some negative divergence, but I like to look at for longer term trading with deep stops, more looking at price action as opposed to indicator divergence. To me, that plays more of a part perhaps in some shorter term trading. That's been what I found anyway. Now, to enter this trade, because again, I only want to go long, or to set that price alarm to check things out, upper Donchian channel touched, lower Donchian channel touched. If price action takes out that upper Donchian channel at 20056, that 20056 is where I'd set my price alarm, maybe 5 or 10 pips before that, just so I can, come to the screen or check things out on my phone prior to a break of that level to see if actually I want to engage and trade that currency pair should it take out that level. And pound Aussie, they are pretty closely related in the strong weak analysis. In fact, the pound is slightly strong and the Aussie is slightly weak. And oftentimes, see, we get this oscillation right here where price traded down, it traded up, and it might just start to oscillate on this 4 hour chart for some time. But once that oscillation begins, once that range starts to develop, and here it's very new, very nascent at this point. We don't know for sure, certainly, if it's going to go on. Nobody can predict the future, but that's why on that strong weak analysis, the pound and the Aussie are so close together. Now, if that breakout to the upside does occur, then we're going to see a shift in that strong weak where the pound gains strength and the Aussie becomes weaker. So I'd be looking at that level, that particular level, for a price alarm at that point. Let's take a look at some of the Aussie pairs that are in the mix this evening that I found interesting. Some different things that I want to share with you. So here we have Aussie Swiss, Aussie weak, Swiss franc relatively strong relative to the Aussie anyway. And here we see price action on the weekly chart is taking out that lower channel, hasn't touched the upper channel. So we're in an open sell position on the weekly. We've got slow stochastics, angle and separation to the downside. Price action took out that lower channel a couple of times on the daily chart. So again, we want to look for selling opportunities on this pair. And on the Aussie Swiss, on the 4 hour chart, right at around, I'd be looking at maybe a price alarm setting at 71.54. Just about 20 pips from where the pair is trading right now, just to check things out should that level be hit. Let's go to the weekly chart and check real quick, as I'm running out of time here, how much room the pair has to run to the downside. And if we look right about there to the downside, we're looking at about 300 pips. So definitely I'd be interested in setting that price alarm to check things out at that level. So again, my name's Richard Krivo. Glad to have you with me. Please feel free to email any questions to me, rkrivofx@gmail.com. Have a good rest of the evening.